Here we have quite an interesting one, job number 11505. It's a faulty PlayStation 5. However, it looks like it's already had something done to the HDMI port. This one came in as a referral and I'm going to try and get it fixed as soon as possible. Let's take it under the scope and see what the story is. We just pull off the Captain tape that we have around the area. We also have some on the bottom side as well, so I'm going to pull this off also. Okay, so what are we dealing with here? The person who referred this to me did say that we were missing a few components. So can confirm we're missing the small little capacitor that just sits underneath the HDMI. If we turn the board around, you can see as well we're missing the small cap and diode that sits on the back just here. The diode goes here, the capacitor goes here. I don't know whether this has had work done on it previously, because there seems to be quite a lot of flux over the board in other places, all around the HDMI port, but it seems to have traveled quite far, as you can see around here, as well as the fact we have flux down by the HDMI IC as well. Hopefully that's okay. But our main focus is, of course, the HDMI port. Firstly, I'm going to heat the board up and just clear these ground holes that we have here. There's a tiny bit of solder left in each one. Then I'll tin everything with leaded solder and put the components on. So for example, this cap here, the cap on the other side, and the diode. Then I'll drop the port on afterwards and hopefully give it a nice tidy up. So let me just clear all of this first. Taking the board over to the heater just to ensure that, again, because it's cold, it heats up the board nice and evenly before we work on it. We now have this nice and clean. I just applied some leaded solder here really quickly and wicked it up. Now I'm just going to remove the solder from the ground holes. Just bring this back underneath the scope. And again, a nice little clean. And now the ground holes are completely clear. I lied, it looks like we have a tiny bit here. Now let's tin everything up. So we're going to apply some leaded solder again. And just prep it. Get off. I'll sort those bridges out in a second. Fill up the ground holes with plenty of solder. More flux. There we go. And you guessed it, another clean. And there we go. This side is nice and prepped. We turn over to this side. Should just have to add a little bit of flux and some leaded solder to prep the pads. There we go. Again, a quick clean. Just about to transfer over the components now. These are such tiny components, by the way, that things can just go wrong. So you have to be super careful with them. Going to make sure that they're soldered to the board correctly. Should be a nice solid connection now. Usually when I heat from the underside to put the port on, I use 100% airflow. However, today, I think I'm going to go for about 50 just to ensure I don't knock these components off. I shouldn't with 100 either because it's stuck to the solder now, but you never know. Better be safe than sorry. Do the same now for this cap. Just make sure the tiny bit of flux. Perfect. I don't actually think this cap specifically is needed. But again, it's always good to give 100% for the customer. And now we put the port on. And the port is now on. I'm just going to go over the pins as always and just make sure that they are solidly in place. Time for a nice clean. Just going to heat up the area first, because we have a little bit of dried flux. Now for the check to make sure there's no bridges, and to make sure every single pin is solid and it looks all good. Bit of singed plastic there, and there will probably be singed plastic over here. Yep. That's only because I try and avoid the cap because it's so small. I don't want to suck it up with my iron. But everything looks solid. To double check for no bridges. We seem to be all good. And this small cap is still here. And if we turn around and look on the back, we still have this little diode and this cap as well. The ground holes do look a little bit bare on the back, but they're fine on the front, so I'm just going to fill these in quickly. Apply good old flux, old Big Bertha to do the job. There's no one better. There we go. Final clean before the test. And that is ready to go. Let's see if it works. Here we have the PlayStation 5. Just turned it on. We get a blue light. It did go to a white light. And there we have the image on the screen. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.